recording this live.
Doug,
Yes.
staff is
So
freaking out.
we need to go live first. We'll come back once we've gone live. We'll let you know.
Oh, okay. Let me know then.
It says live on YouTube in the corner.
Yeah.
All right, we're live now, ready to go.
Very good. Welcome to the April 29th, 2020 Hagerstown Planning Commission meeting. We're being brought to you digitally. We're live now. I understand there will be a tape of this later. They could be viewed later. With me is tonight, the commissioners, Chris Davis, Shelley McIntyre, who is our ex officio and council person, Colin Pluscuru. I'm sorry, I do that all the time, Colin.
No worries.
Jim Stone, Ron Thomas, Judy Weller, and myself, Chairman Doug Wright. Staff that is with us are Kathy Marr, Steve Bachmiller, Megan Flick, and Debbie Calhoun. And I see some other cast of characters there that I know we'll be hearing from shortly. But the first order of business tonight is a public review meeting for a local conversion district overlay at 202 West Howard Street. The way we want to conduct this part of the meeting is that first we'll have a presentation by staff, orientation, information that the commission needs to consider. Then if the applicant would like to add, they can do so. At that point, then after that, we will invite comments from the public. Do we have anybody registered to speak tonight?
We don't,
Who's that?
we do not have anybody.
Okay, Megan, you're a little, I'm gonna turn my volume up some more. So then it's still, it'll be open, and afterwards we'll keep the record open for however long the commission wants to do for additional comments. Then if any additional information is needed, we'll have another dialogue with staff, then we'll close the meeting. That'll end the public review portion of this meeting, and we'll go on with regular planning commission business. So who's making this presentation tonight?
I will be.
All righty.
Okay, can everybody see the screen here?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the Planning Commission public hearing for a local conversion district overlay application at 202 Howard Street. The applicant is Daniel Wolf with Gideon Properties. Not sure if he's on the line yet or not.
Yeah, he's with me. Yeah, so I'm good.
Thank you. So for site details, the address is 202 West Howard Street. It's at the corner of West Howard and Maryland Avenue. As you can see in the image here overlaid on the map. It's a vacant mixed-use building, it's approximately 7,500 square feet, and the existing zoning is moderate density residential. And it is an expired non-conforming use. Again, the mixed-use building is currently vacant, and it was actually built in 1912, and it has been used for 3 apartments and a commercial unit containing various uses over time, and the most recent use was a deli and sub shop. So here is just some context for the site location. City Park is up here, and the site is right down here. And then here we have just some existing photos of the building from Google Street View. Right here is the Howard Street facade, and then here is the Maryland Avenue facade on the right. And then again, for the existing building, these are renderings of how it looks currently. As you can see, there's this window here that actually will be opened in the proposal. And then we have the Maryland Avenue facade, which again has these windows that will be reopened as well. So for the proposal, there's going to be a first floor commercial unit and 3 residential units. Like I said, windows will be reinstalled across the street facades. The aluminum canopy in the Howard Street right-of-way will be removed. And then some of the proposed commercial uses could include artist studios, business service centers, quick printing service, business and professional office, photography studios, catering, restaurants, and dry cleaning and laundry services. So as you can see in this drawing here, what we're looking at right now is the parking. So the parking actually is not required per the ordinance, but since they do have room on this site, staff is recommending proposed parking. So the space would permit a total of 8 spaces, and they would be 2 vehicles deep and 4 vehicles wide, which would leave 2 parking spaces per unit in the building. And then this is a rendering of the proposed building from the Howard Street facade. Again, this window has been reopened or reinstalled. And then here's the proposed from the Maryland Avenue facade. So as you can see, all these windows will be reopened as well. And then these are shots of the back of the proposed building. I think there's a couple more angles here. And then again, the proposal is to reactivate an existing mixed-use building that has been vacant for years. For most of its existence, the structure was a well-known mixed-use building in the community with a chain of commercial uses that have occupied the commercial space over time. It's located along one of the city's major radial streets, and the nature of the proposed use when considering the intended rehabilitation of the building and its location are such that the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area. And then once occupied, the units will increase the city population from around 1 to 3 people. Water and wastewater service currently exists at the property. There's no identified traffic capacity issues. And then again, reoccupation of this site would prevent a blighting condition. And as far as consistency with the comp plan, our comp plan does encourage adaptive reuse. And this is a great example of that. And then lastly, these are just some site plan conditions that we're recommending for the Planning Commission to consider with this application. The first is that the modifications to the building shall be in accordance with the proposal. Again, with the parking, expand the parking lot 12 feet and assign 2 spaces per unit. Staff is recommending this even though it is not required by the ordinance. And then also signs shall be in accordance with the zoning exhibit. So it's kind of hard to tell here, but the signage would be right here on this side of the building. And again, this is just a general idea, just so that when the future tenant comes to us, we've already considered a general idea of signage. I think that's everything.
And Megan,
I'm gonna go to the Google Street.
one thing that the board needs to be aware of too is that the opening of closed-in store windows is actually a requirement of the ordinance. That's not a negotiable. That's actually written into the code.
Megan, do you want to add the record of advertisement?
Oh yeah, as the record, the certification of advertisement for the public hearing and the Planning Commission file by reference.
Very good. Any questions or comments from the commissioners?
Seems pretty
On the-
straightforward.
On the drawings,
Ron, would you identify yourself, please?
I'm Ron Thomas.
Thank you.
On the drawings, where is the commercial going to actually be located?
You can handle that one.
Sure.
The commercial is on the first floor front of the building, basically where it looks like a big enclosed porch. Plus, if you go back behind it, that porch is, or that enclosed area is 1 story tall, and then you have that second floor, which is a bit recessed. The commercial-
Okay,
Yeah, basically, if you look at the picture that's up now, it's the area on the first floor where you see that door on the side and the windows on either side of it.
okay,
If you get to the middle of the building, you see a door that's to a set of stairs that goes to the upstairs apartments.
okay.
Basically, it's a,
Yeah, 'cause all I saw were the dimensions for the 3 apartments. And on the apartment 1 sketch, they indicate 1 bedroom that's 10 by 10 and 1 that's 8 by 10, but in the dimensions, they got both bedrooms as 100 square feet.
they're not making any changes to the existing interior. They're not looking to change any walls. It's not a proposed construction plan. It's existing conditions.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They have bedroom 1 is 10 by 10, which is 100 square feet, and then bedroom 2 shows 8 by 10, but they have 100 square feet on the dimensions on the top of the drawing. It's on the last drawing there for apartment 1. It's probably just a typographical error. That's why I'm asking is which one is the correct one? Is it 100 square feet or 80 square feet?
Question for you.
And maybe the applicant ought to address that in their presentation.
Okay. It's no big thing. It's just that it shows two different figures.
This is Doug. I have just a one question, basically. Is there any plans, if it does become a restaurant, that there will be any outdoor seating?
None is proposed.
I think we should make that part of our condition, but we can decide that later on.
This is Jim. I have a concern. Why do we want to recommend, if I'm looking at this drawing correctly, we would be, in order to increase the number of parking spaces, wouldn't we have to dedicate some of the backyard to parking?
The existing parking pad is longer in length than your typical 18-foot long parking pad. So the idea is that, yeah, you would extend the parking into the yard by about 12 feet, which will basically extend the parking pad from 24 to 36 feet. Right now, you have enough space for one. The photograph that you see up there now, see how you have a lot of additional space in front of that car before you get to the alley? So you can create 4 additional parking spaces with not 4 full parking spaces worth of additional paving. And that additional 12 feet, that rear yard is pretty decent size. This is kind of a different situation than the typical local conversion district that you see, because a lot of those you get, they have like next to no yard whatsoever. Here you actually have a pretty sizable rear yard, and it really wouldn't be a big deal as far as usable rear yard area to pull about 12 feet out of that to create the additional park.
Well, my concern about that is that, there's a huge amount of on-street parking. And for example, I think, wasn't this Bubba's, the breakfast and lunch place in its most recent iteration?
Yes.
Okay, well, when it was occupied and they had a lot of business, there was no issue about parking. I mean, there was plenty of parking there. I don't think I would require them to dedicate, take land away that's now grass and make it into something impervious. I mean, if they wanted to do that, that's something else, but I wouldn't require it.
Do keep in mind that the picture that you're seeing there now dates from 2019. What you see is on-street parking with that building and its 4 units being vacant at this time.
Yeah, but it also, the parking goes all the way around onto Maryland Avenue as well. And I just don't see I don't think it was an issue when it was occupied as a commercial place. I don't see it's likely to be an issue right now either.
Our recommendation was driven mostly on not necessarily the commercial use. We kind of figured there'd be some spillover on that. But the zoning ordinance typically does require 2 parking spaces per dwelling, which for 3 dwellings, that's a total of 6 parking spaces. If they have the room to provide it, they really ought to. Obviously, if they didn't have it, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We're moving forward. without that recommendation. But the thought is they've got plenty of yard there, another 12 feet. It takes the apartment tenant parking completely off the streets.
Well, I see that, but I don't see much the point of it. Both streets are very wide, so on-street parking is, I think, not an issue at all.
Well-
I mean, Maryland Avenue is one of the widest city streets there is.
But am I catching Steve right? He's saying this is an ordinance. They need to provide that. Is that correct?
No,
No, the ordinance does not specifically require it in this situation. The zoning ordinance, local conversion says that you don't have to comply with parking requirements. That's not to say that if it isn't a good idea and you have the ability to do it, it shouldn't be considered. But the ordinance does not require them providing 2 parking spaces per unit here as part of the local conversion. Let's say the building covered the entire property and there was no parking on there at all. They could still move forward with no parking. But the thought was whenever we do these local conversions, we assess the property about how what site changes would be in the best interest of the community around and for logical development. The thought was here, there's no shortage of backyard here, another few extra feet of paving and you can get all your residential parking off the street.
well, I mean, I hear you, but I'm not sure I'm persuaded by that argument. I mean, we can move on
Yeah, we
and talk
can.
about this later, but
That's right. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is Ron. Was this a 3 or a 2 bedroom, a 2 apartment unit when it was Bubba's?
Three units, 3 residential units plus the commercial unit, total of 4.
Okay. And it had sufficient parking for those 3 bedrooms plus Bubba's at that time, wasn't it?
Depends on how you use the term sufficient. Meeting the needs of the local community and not creating a problem, probably the answer is yes. Meeting the current requirements of the ordinance under other circumstances, the answer is no.
Okay.
Depends on how you use the term sufficient.
I think this discussion has been fruitful and needs to be held in abeyance until we actually make our decisions at a subsequent meeting. So
sure.
if we move forward, does anybody else have any other subjects to discuss? Then I would call on the applicant or his or her representative to provide whatever information they want to provide. If I ask that you identify yourselves, please.
This is
Name and
Mike
address.
Fitzgerald. How's everyone doing? Hopefully you guys can hear me. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has been, Steve's been great, planning's been great. This has been a long process. We've it's been 2 years and we haven't been able to rent an apartment. It's obviously a 3-bedroom apartment. The old phone books to as far back as you can go show it's 3 apartments. And in a storefront, it makes sense. We're gonna go in. We already planned, to put granite in the kitchen and upgrade them and make them nice. We just really don't want to keep going months and months and months and not being able to rent them. We're still paying the mortgage. It's a terrible position to be in. I've stopped by and I've talked to different neighbors, including the lady directly next door. I even got a video from her I can produce where she liked it when there was apartments and she had neighbors and the deli was open. We'll make it a great building again. We'll put great people in there. And we're just asking not to keep it empty and not to completely have to do new construction to something that's designed, built like a 3-bedroom unit in a storefront. So thank you. Some of you guys might remember I was in front of the same board maybe over a year ago about the same building. So it's been a long time coming trying to fix this. And as a developer and somebody who does hundreds of units in the city and gives tours of Hagerstown all the time to new developers looking to come in, this zoning change will be huge because it's looked upon negatively by people from outside. And if it happens to someone who comes in, they probably won't be like me that sits here and works it out for 2 years. They probably won't come back. So thank you. Cappy Zoning's doing a great job. And thank you again for looking at this. We just want to do what makes sense and move forward. And I can answer any questions as well.
Any questions?
I don't have any.
We ready to move on?
Let us.
Yes, please.
Thank you for your guys' time tonight, and I hope everybody's healthy and happy. I know it's a rough time right now.
And my name's Daniel Wolf. I would like to personally thank Megan Flick, Stephen Bachmiller, and Debbie Callahan for working with me, especially over these past couple of weeks. They've been very patient with their time. This is my first go around with this, and again, I've had to resend many things out of my own fault, and they've been very patient with me through this whole process. So I'd like to say thank you very much.
Thank you for those kind words. So we don't have anybody scheduled. We're logged in to give public testimony. Those who out there who do want to provide input, make a comment, we invite you to contact the planning the planning department in the city and submit written comments. You've got X number of days. We'll determine that here in a second. But anyway, you're invited to do that, and we will certainly consider any other additional public testimony at that time.
Mr. Chairman, could I add one thing just for the record?
Yes, sir.
On a local conversion district, the building is supposed to be built as a commercial or mixed-use building. In case anybody asked, obviously the building predominantly looks like just a large residential building. But I went through the building probably a year ago now or so, and I explored the interior configuration and finishes very carefully. And I get every impression that this building was actually built this way for the most part, where whoever built it to have some sort of commercial in that first floor. I think it was also designed to be retrofitted and changed around if they decided to do that later. But the inside of the building is relatively unmessed with. So I am confident that this thing was built as a mixed use building.
Thank you.
I think it was mixed use. I think it pretty much looked the same way going back at least to the 50s.
All righty. Any other comments or questions? I think
I
we
make a
can.
motion that we keep the record open for 10 days.
Thank you. That motion was made by Jim Stone.
I'll
I
second.
second it.
Judy Weller made the second. We're going to keep it open how long again?
10 days.
10 days. Any discussion on the motion? Are we ready to vote? Now I'm going to do a roll call vote so we can get this recorded correctly. Chris,
Aye.
Shelley McIntyre,
Aye.
Colin.
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Jim Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas,
Aye.
Judy Weller. And I vote aye also, Doug Wright. So that motion passes unanimously, and we will be reviewing this and making our final decision at a subsequent meeting. Thank you all very much for your participation.
Thank you guys for your time. I sincerely appreciate it. Hopefully everybody and their loved ones are healthy through all this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to our regular meeting. And the first item on their agenda is the approval of minutes from April the 1st.
I move approval of the minutes. It's Judy.
This is Chris,
Second.
second.
That was Chris making the second, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? We ready to vote? I'm just going to ask for all in favor and against on this one. Everybody in favor of this?
Aye.
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 Is there any opposition? Then it passes unanimously. Thank you. Development review. First one, first two are McCleary Hill. First one is a revised plat.
Chairman, before we get started, I just want to point out to you that we have at least one member of the public watching this evening who's
Good.
communicating with me by text message. This individual is actually a professional planner up in Lancaster County, gentleman by the name of Alex Rohrbaugh. Sends his best.
Oops, we're live, aren't we? We're live. Oops. Okay. Hi,
Okay,
Alex.
hello, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Okay, we're
For
gonna.
future viewers, Alex used to be with the city of Hagerstown. Go on, please.
Okay, this is the development plan. It's going to be a revision to the development plan for McCleary Hill, file P 2018-01. The applicant seeks to amend their development plan and preliminary plat to change 4 duplex buildings, total of 8 units, 4 single-family detached dwellings on individual lots in the area located on the eastern boundary of the property, behind the lots fronting Maryland 144 in the cul-de-sac of Calcite Drive. There will be a net decrease of 4 dwelling units. These 4 duplex units were to be part of a bulk lot containing a number of townhouses and duplex units along the eastern edge of the property. But these 4 buildings will now become single-family homes on fee simple lots. Since they are going to be on their own individual lots, laterals to each needed to be added to the plans from a public main, since regulation would prohibit them from being metered from the line entering the remainder of the bulk lot. In other words, each individual lot that's created has to have its own separate water and sewer line into it. Therefore, the utilities into these 4 lots had to be adjusted a little bit. The following agencies have provided approvals, and I'm updating this since your memo went out. Approvals have been provided by Parks and Engineering, County Wastewater, Electric, Water, Fire Marshal, and Planning. The last minute details that were being worked out have since been worked out. And also the note that I had at the bottom of my staff report about the possibility of some minor impacts to some of the parking in the area that those lots did not pan out. It's all really super minor stuff. So I don't have anything to add on that. Therefore, staff recommends approval. And if we could take the screen that has everybody's picture on it and shift it somewhere else on the screen, if at all possible,
Oh,
or we can get rid of them altogether. If we could have the plan drawing up, please. Okay, the illustration that you see on the screen, there's a box highlighted in pink. There's 4 lots there around that cul-de-sac. They were going to be a total of 4 duplex units, total of 8 dwellings. That was part of that bulk lot that stretches down the entire length of the eastern property line down to Insurance Way. What you're seeing now is the revised plat showing property lines for 4 additional lots. Of course, if you remember, the original plan was approved, shows the individual fee simple lots across the entire frontage of 144. This is creating 4 additional fee simple single family lots around the bulb of that cul-de-sac behind it. So staff recommends approval.
Hi, this is Doug. I have one question. Back when we first approved this plan, we asked that a note be added to the plats. I think certainly the plats were the site plan, that Genesis Way Drive name will go away when the road is completed to Insurance Way. And that stretch of road will become Insurance Way. I don't see that on the documents that we have. Was that done successfully the first time around? And can it be done again on this set of documents?
It was, and actually the plans the pages that you're seeing are essentially the relevant plans. Keep in mind that the site plan or the preliminary plan, this is what we're talking about. And I saw no point in sending you a PDF with 60 pages, most of which didn't change.
That's why I said just the pages in front of me. I left that open. I understand that. So simple, the essence being taken care of is really all I need without the 69 pages. Thank you. Are there any other questions or discussion?
The the water and sewer and gas mains and so forth, the original plan called for all that to be metered by 1 meter coming into the whole development. Is that correct?
No,
It isn't.
each lot is got a water and service line into it. So each of the lots that you see along 144 have 1 water and 1 sewer line into them. Each of the bulk lots in the housing authority development, which is basically everything south of those lots facing 144, each one of those large lots has a water and a sewer line going into that lot that will serve every dwelling that is on that lot. So what you have here is a lot that's on the far right-hand side. That still will have 1 line going into it to serve all of the townhouses and duplexes that are going to be on that lot. The 4 dwelling structures with 8 units in it around the cul-de-sac that were at one point part of that that bulk lot would have been served by that master line into that bulk lot. But because they are now their own individual lots, they each individually have to have their own water and sewer line.
Correct. But so that does that mean that they ran separate individual lines to each one of those 4 lots that have just been created, that is not attached to the main line coming in at all?
They're attached to a line that runs through the development, serving the individual lots. And when I say individual lots, I mean the single family lots and also the bulk lots. So there are water mains that run through, and I would probably actually defer detailed explanation on that to Mike Hicks when he has a chance to comment if you want more detail on that. But basically what happened was that the water and sewer lines had to be tweaked some in order to have individual lines run into these 4 lots where they hadn't been before, because they would have been served through the bulk lot before.
Okay. The reason why I was asking that, I was wondering if I was just wanted to make sure that they were separated out from the bulk line coming in there, so that you would not have to have a subtraction meter or whatever to eliminate those 4 lots off of the bulk metering.
I'll have to defer to Mike Hicks on that. All I can tell you is that both the county sewer department and the city water department that are providing the utilities are satisfied at this point.
Then that's fine with me. If they're satisfied, I'm satisfied.
All righty. Any other questions?
Memo talks also about the changes may potentially impact a few parking spaces. Did you want to address that?
I received a copy after the report went out last week, and I really couldn't pick up on anything of any consequence and any changes. I'll defer that one to Mike Hicks. When we were putting the staff report together, the fire marshal and the water department were still working out some details. And I was cautioned that it might result in some loss of several parking spaces, that kind of thing. So that's why I put the clause in the staff report, knowing that I would get a final report later on that. But on late Friday, I was sent a copy of the drawing, and I didn't see anything that jumped out at me as any substantial change.
Other questions or on behalf of the commissioners? Are we ready to make a motion?
You might want to ask Mike if he has any comments.
Okay, Mike?
Yes, this is Mike Hicks, engineer for the project. All the approvals, as we've talked about, have been obtained. The water and sewer lines have been kept separate, meeting all the design necessities for the city and for the county. Regarding the parking, I believe we removed 2 spaces on street parking due to a fire hydrant having to be relocated. With the 4 lots being changed, or the 8 townhouse units being changed to 4 separate lots of record, We did have to make water and sewer revisions to serve the property a slight bit differently. It actually keeps work out of Maryland Route 144 for the water line. It makes it more on the property and keeps out of the state right away. So that's a benefit in the end for that. Otherwise, there really aren't any substantial changes in any other form from the stormwater management, from access, anything else. All other parts have remained the same.
Any questions of Mike? I'll take a motion.
I move that we accept the changes to the proposal for the 4 separate home lots from the original development plan.
I'll second
This is
that.
Shelley, second.
All right, Ron made it, Shelley second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. So I'm sorry. New ways. Roll call. Chris Davis,
Aye.
Shelley McIntyre,
Aye.
Colin Pashuru,
Aye.
Jim Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas,
Aye.
Judy Weller,
Aye.
Doug Wright, aye. Passes unanimously. And so we'll move on to the next topic, which is also the a revision to site plan, same development.
Okay, this is a revision to the final plat of subdivision for Cleary Hill Phase 2, subdivision plat 2010-02. It's a minor revision to the existing plat, which was approved and recorded, which created the 4 bulk lots and 8 single-family lots in the Phase 2 of the development. In this revision, lot 15, which was a lot that contained multiple dwellings and consist of 5.414 acres, would be reduced to create lots 22, 23, 24, and 25 for single-family detached dwellings per the development plan revisions that you just approved. So you're going to have 4 new single-family lots at the end of that cul-de-sac identified in the exhibit as lot 22, 23, 24, and 25. Following agencies have provided approval: Water, Planning, Fire Marshal, Soil Conservation District, Electric, and the city engineer. County wastewater requested 2 minor changes regarding manhole easements. Staff recommends approval, subject to correcting the 2 issues raised by the county wastewater department regarding the easements.
My mistake, this is not a site plan, this is a revision to the final plat, my mistake. Any questions, additional questions about this, or anything this final plat is bringing up to you? I asked for a motion. Remember that we do have contingencies from the Department of Water, Wastewater.
This is Colin. I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the final contingent upon the changes being made as per the wastewater department.
Second. This is Ron.
That was Ron giving the second. Thank you. All righty, we'll do another roll call vote. Chris Davis,
Aye.
Shelley McIntyre,
Aye.
Colin.
Aye.
Thank you. Jim Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas,
Aye.
Judy Weller, and Doug Wright. Yes. I might get it right before the end of the meeting. I don't know.
Waskaroo.
It does pass unanimously. Thank you. Say it again, please. Boskaroo.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. See if I can remember that for 5 minutes.
Thank you, everyone.
Next, development review is Tri-State Plaza. Fast food, site plan, waivers.
Okay, this is site plan ZS 2020-01 for Tri-State Fast Food Restaurant at 1739 Dual Highway. The site plan is for the construction of a 3,154 square foot fast food restaurant and drive-through service lane, as well as reconfiguration of the parking, circulation, and landscaping on site to have the new development coordinate to the maximum extent possible with the adjacent urgent care facility. Between the two buildings, 70 parking spaces are required and 74 are provided. The forest conservation plan has been provided. There's no forest on the property. The required mitigation is 0.18 acres of planting, which the applicant proposes to meet with the use of street trees along Dual Highway. The applicant proposes an alternate landscaping plan due to the retrofit nature of the site and will result in some reduction in the 10-foot landscaping buffer along the street, along property lines, and the 6-foot buffer along the buildings and other provisions. The applicant also requests a waiver to Article 5 regarding the provision of public sidewalks along Dual Highway. These issues were reviewed by the commission at a recent meeting. Following agencies have provided approvals: water, wastewater, electric, planning, and fire marshal. Conditional approval has been provided by Parks and Engineering, and that's subject to the State Highway Administration approval of Dual Highway changes and improvements. This fronts Dual Highway, US 40, and State Highway is got over State Highway right away. So ultimately they have to get access permits from the state for work within the state right away. Yeah, there's satellite view of the property showing the urgent care. The fast food restaurant would go approximately where that wide landscape island is to the northwest of the building, about where the cursor is right now. The staff recommends approval of the site plan subject to compliance with any requirements forthcoming from the State Highway Administration.
Steve, this is Jim. A question. Am I looking at this right? But it looks to me as though this drawing has 2 access points to US 40.
Actually, it already does.
It does.
In the drawing that you see, the one on the bottom of the drawing is the existing driveway that runs along the east side of the urgent care and goes back to where the Carter Lumber facility is.
Right.
Mhm.
And there's another driveway entrance that's farther up, but it's not where that one is shown on the plan. It's actually a little bit farther closer to the urgent care. So they are relocating that driveway entrance to the location that you see on that drawing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the existing one up there where the new restaurant's going is actually more in line with the driving area to the bottom of the drawing there, if I'm not mistaken.
If you see where there's a clump of 3 trees, 2 solid green,
Yes.
one of the lines in it, that's about where the existing driveway entrance is now.
That's what I'm referring to, yes.
That'll be closed.
And they're moving it back towards the McDonald's, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Steve, I should have looked back in the minutes, but what was our discussion on sidewalks?
There was, I don't remember there being any overt objection from the group as a whole. I think there was discussion about it. Part of it also comes into the fact that it's state highway right away, and I think there's a swale in there.
Yeah.
And it was gonna create problems with figuring out how to make it work.
And there is sidewalk across the street, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
4 lanes of traffic and a medium strip.
Yep.
Further down the road, got closer to the interstate, when we did that hotels that are going in down there, we finally said, okay, just as long as you engineer or design a way for a future sidewalk to be installed. there's no sidewalk on either side, and I recognize that. I hate to say we'll have the state of Maryland pay for putting one in instead of the developer, but I'll say it anyhow. So can we require that the grading and everything else be done in such a way as to allow future sidewalk? Because the state's going to put one in, they're going to put it in. And they'll drastically change everything, I'm sure. But the state will be putting in a sidewalk out there.
Well, the waiver request is permissive on your part. So if you want to place a condition on approving not putting the sidewalk in with such a condition, I don't see any reason why you couldn't.
Well, I would at least like to see the grading and everything else be designed to allow a future installation of a sidewalk. I'm not saying we need to put one in now, although I would have said that even 6 months ago, but we just got to work harder in getting safe pedestrian pathways throughout the city. And we've had some unfortunate accidents on that road, cars and people. It's not a simple minor matter. So I would encourage that we recommend that accommodations be made for a future sidewalk.
And I should have mentioned that the project is represented by Gordon Poffenberger, who isn't on this meeting, by the way.
Yeah, Gordon's here from Fox. These plans have been submitted to State Highway. They made no requirements for sidewalk. I understand your concerns. I know there's been accidents out there. I think they're primarily west of this site. There's no sidewalk on the east or west side of this property. Showing a future sidewalk and grading to allow it, I don't think that would be much difficulty.
Well, it looks like the ground is flat there anyway, so I don't think it's going to make any difference.
Right.
I don't think there is a swale along that side of the dual highway.
I'm looking at the street view and it's flat.
Okay.
I thought something about a swale came up in the conversations last meeting. Maybe it was, is there a swale? And the answer was no.
It's just curbing. It's just curbing what I'm seeing.
Yep.
I think, this is Jim, I agree with Doug. I support the idea that, yes, we shouldn't require them to build it, but we ought to have it planned in so that it can be done at a future date without messing up, the parking lots or anything else.
I agree.
And could the site plan drawings show future sidewalk?
Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. I think the only difficulty is going to be on the eastern property line. Once you get east of that access that goes back to Carter Lumber, there's a pretty good swale between the Carter entrance and the hotel property.
Yeah.
That's where the swale is.
It's farther to the east.
That eastern property line.
Is it on this property or is it on the hotel property?
I think the swale follows the property line.
So it's on both.
It's on both. Okay. Well, I don't think there's any reason why we can't indicate on the final plat that a location for sidewalks along the property line.
If you look at the site plan sheet 4, you can see the pipe that goes under 40 right there at that eastern property line. I think the only recourse there would be to either extend the pipe or bring the sidewalk right up to the curb.
What we could do is I can work with Gordon for him to rework the earthwork in there a little bit. as it may be necessary and show the sidewalk with the location of future sidewalk not part of this plan.
What was that again?
If you approve it as I understand it, what I would do is I would work with Gordon to review any necessary revisions that he may need to make to the grading in the street right of way that would allow or would create essentially a base for sidewalk to be put in. And then we can even show on the plan an actual location of a sidewalk, but with a disclaimer label that says future sidewalk not part of this plan. That way he doesn't have to do it, but it's shown on the plan. That way even State Highway can go back and say, well, here, the city already came up with an idea on how to do a sidewalk in this area, and they wouldn't even have to go back and come up with new drawings.
That's fine.
Works for me.
Anybody else have any concerns or questions or comments?
On here.
Would someone want to offer a motion?
Well, we have two. Do you think we should take them separately?
We could, yep. That makes it simpler.
Actually, you have three items. You have the forest conservation plan, then you have the waivers, and then you have the site plan. I recommend it in that order.
Forest conservation.
Where did you talk about forest conservation? Oh, that's street trees.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the motion would be to approve the use of street trees to meet the forest conservation requirements.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to make use of street trees to meet the forest conservation requirements.
Thank you.
This is Shelley, second.
Are we ready to vote?
Okay.
Oh, here I gotta go again. Roll call. Chris Davis,
Aye.
Kelly McIntyre,
Aye.
Colin Plashuglu, Jim Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas,
Aye.
Judy Weller, Doug Wright, yes. Passes unanimously. The second one would be for a waivers of landscaping, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And they are, again, does anybody want those reviewed? We ready to go?
I think that might be the best place to put the condition of the, for the sidewalk, or should that be part of the site plan?
I recommend a site plan.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion then, this is Jim, I'll make a motion that we approve the alternate site plan that's laid out in the Fox Associates memo.
This is Colin. I'll second.
We ready to vote?
Yes.
Chris Davis,
Aye.
Shelley McIntyre,
Aye.
Colin Plashuglu, Jim Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas,
Aye.
Judy Weller,
Aye.
Doug Wright, aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, now we got to the site plan.
I'll make a motion that we approve the site plan, subject to the conditional approval of SHA, which would have to approve the entrance, and also the condition that the site plan reflect the design of where the sidewalks would be if and when they need to be constructed in the future.
Second.
All righty, we ready to vote? Chris Davis,
Aye.
Shelley McIntyre,
Aye.
Colin Plashuglu. Am I getting close?
We'll just go with column P.
Colin P, thank you. Jim Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas,
Aye.
Judy Weller,
Aye.
and Doug Wright. Aye.
Oh, thanks,
All
everybody.
righty.
Thank you.
Easier, okay.
Now we move the Heiser parking lot.
Okay, so this minor site plan is for the creation of a 0.77 acre parking lot named Heiser Parking Lot at City Park. This lot will provide 42 parking spaces for City Park visitors and city staff members. It's an existing gravel parking lot, which will be formalized with paving, curb and gutter, and landscaping. So at an earlier workshop, planning commission members discussed the landscaping waivers that may be required for the site plan. It actually meets the parking design standards and landscaping standards, including minimum of 1 canopy tree per 8 parking spaces. It has 6 trees for 42 spaces. However, the planning commission will need to consider granting landscaping waivers along City Park Drive for landscaping buffers, including 10-foot minimum width of buffer and public right-of-way, minimum of 1 canopy tree per 40 feet of road frontage, and 1 shrub required and buffer per 10 feet. Also waivers for street trees along all public rights of way. Although, as you can see here, these trees do kind of serve as street trees on City Park Drive. Following agencies have provided approvals: water, wastewater, electric, planning, code, engineering, fire, public works, and soil conservation district. Staff recommends of the minor site plan with the above list of landscaping waivers. And then this is the plan you're looking at here. And I can go ahead and take it to satellite too and show you guys what it looks like now. I don't know if you remember us talking about this. Oh, wait.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay, yeah.
It's pretty much the existing parking lot just paved, right?
Right.
I got one small, minor, picky little comment, or at least question. Have we rezoned this yet to institutional?
Not yet, but we're hoping it will be adopted in June.
Okay, well, we're going to approve this now. So the drawing refers to residential moderate density.
Yeah, it will become institutional when we complete the comprehensive rezoning this summer, along with the rest of City Park.
That'll be after this drawing's approved. Okay.
They're looking to get moving on constructing this thing very quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure before the summer really gets going. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, yeah, and you need
Do
to
we-
put the landscaping waivers as well.
Do we want to do those separate or do it all in one?
Let's do them all.
The
one.
waivers and the site plan.
I don't want to do the roll call twice. Let's do them all one.
Sounds good to me. I make a motion that we approve the site plan for the City Park Drive parking lot improvements and the waivers.
Second.
All righty. Did you get that, Debbie? Who's second? Okay. A roll call vote. Chris Davis,
Aye.
Shelley McIntyre,
Aye.
Colin Fee,
Aye.
Jim Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas.
Aye.
There, okay, and Judy Weller,
Aye.
and Doug Wright, aye. Thank you all. Tractor Supply Company, warehouse expansion.
Okay, Trevor Frederick represents the applicant on this one. Before I get into my staff report, I want to kind of give you a little bit of a narrative of what's going on here. Basically, this is a property that was approved via a county site plan with a stage 2 expansion and a county forest conservation plan about 10 years ago or so. As a requirement of utility service, they had to do a pre-annexation agreement, which has since been triggered. So this property is now in the city, but it was developed with a county forest conservation plan and a county site plan. The area for the expansion is the grass area southwest of the building you see in the photo. But the expansion that they want to do now is bigger than what was shown on the plan. So they have to do a site plan through the city at this point. And this also created questions on how we would They also need to amend the forest conservation plan, but the forest conservation plan was reviewed and done by the county. The easements were county easements. So we were in somewhat of a negotiation, let's say, with the county on exactly how do we handle this and also ones in the future, because this is not going to be the last time as we more aggressively annex lands that have already been developed in the county. So for the forest conservation plan, what's happening is the county is essentially assigning away to the city its rights and responsibilities for future forest conservation plan considerations on this property. Essentially, it's going to become ours, even though it was originally approved by the county. So with that, I'll go into my formal presentation. This is Tractor Supply Distribution Center Warehouse Edition at 11935 Hopewell Road. The site plan is ZS 2020-03, and a revision to the county forest conservation plan. The site plan is for the construction of a 140,400 square foot addition to the existing Tractor Supply warehouse and the expansion of an existing parking area to the north of the building. The property was developed per a site plan and forest conservation plan approved by the county about 10 years ago. The property was annexed into the city later, and the city agreed to administer and abide by the approved site plan, which included area for an approved second phase addition should it be desired in the future. The developer desires to move forward with an addition. However, their current plans exceed what was shown on the original site plan. Therefore, the city managed site plan is required. Recently, due to this pending site plan, the county has assigned administration of the forest conservation easements on this property to the city since the property has been annexed. This creates a peculiar situation administratively, as the proposal does not include removing part of the existing, because it does include removing part of the existing forest conservation easement area in order to accommodate the parking. The ordinance requires 94 parking spaces for the addition, and a net of 146 parking spaces will be added to the site. This results in a net improvement of 56 spaces to the existing conditions. In other words, they're providing 56 spaces more than adding the addition requires. And then, of course, that'll go to the benefit of improving parking for the overall site. The city ordinance only requires that the applicant provide parking for the proposed addition, but 56 additional spaces beyond that required are provided in order to make up about a 40% shortfall between what was built under the county standards and what the city's current standards are. A total of 363 parking spaces will be provided in total. The county's forest conservation plan covered the entire property and included a forest conservation easement along the entire northern property line. In order to meet forest conservation requirements for the development, the developer proposes to amend its forest conservation plan by removing a 2.47 acre easement along the eastern part of the northern property line, the area needed for the parking expansion, and record a forest conservation easement on twice as much land, 4.94 acres, on existing forest and wetlands located approximately 4,000 feet northwest of the circle in Searfoss on Searfoss Pike. So this is an off-site forest mitigation proposal. This meets the ordinance requirements that off-site mitigation be provided at a 2-to-1 ratio. The forest to be removed was not existing forest 10 years ago when the county's plan was approved. It was mitigation planning, some of which appears to be missing. The applicant also requests to go ahead to eliminate parking lot landscaping islands in both the trailer storage area and on the west side of the building, and in the employee parking lot on the north side of the building. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission in work session, and the commission expressed no objection to these requests due to their distance from Hopewell Road, lack of visibility, and need to maximize parking for the expansion of this important economic development project. I will say that there was one landscaping island that we did negotiate retaining right where the driveway comes up and hits the corner of the building just to channelize traffic. But for the most part, the landscape islands will not be in the employee parking area. The following agencies have provided approvals: Water, Electric, Planning, Health, Parks and Engineering, and the Fire Marshal, and the County Wastewater Department. Soil Conservation had a couple of minor corrections that they said needed to be made, but they're prepared to sign off on it very soon as well. Staff recommends approval of the waivers and of the Forest Conservation Plan. Staff also recommends approval of the site plan subject to making the soil conservation district's requested minor corrections. And then subject to any conditions forthcoming from the wastewater staff, but there are none. So if we could get the drawing up showing the forest conservation plan. Okay, that drawing right there that you see is the proposed forest conservation, one page of the forest conservation plan. The area that's along the northern property line that's in a darker gray is the existing forest conservation easement area. That will be reduced, so the area that's shown along the right half of it, essentially, the more rectangular area with the triangle down at the end closer to 81, that will be removed from forest conservation. The darker outline triangle in the northwest part, that will remain as forest conservation. In order to make up for that area being removed, I think there should be another page of forest conservation. If you stop there, the air photo that you see, this bottom right-hand corner is the 5-way traffic circle at Searfoss. The area outlined in red is the proposed forest conservation easement for this. It's adjacent to 3 other already recorded offsite easements. Basically, this wooded area is being set aside for forest conservation offsite for various other projects. The area to the northeast, essentially to the right of that panhandle in red, is already 3 other forest conservation easements for other projects, I believe, that have been executed in the county. So if we can go down one more page, this shows it in more detail. The area that would be part of this forest conservation area is the area with the panhandle and the pond or wetland or whatever that is in the middle of it. And as you can see, it's adjacent to other preserved forest conservation areas as well. So staff recommends approval of the waivers. Staff recommends approval of the forest conservation plan. Staff recommends approval of the site plan. Subject to making any minor changes still outstanding with soil conservation district.
Any questions?
I will point out that there was some discussion in your previous workshop on this about doing some additional landscaping along Hopewell Road. There are several additional street trees that are proposed, and additional landscaping is also proposed around the business's sign.
If I remember correctly, because of the drastic change in elevation, there wasn't really too much of a problem for too much coverage there to block off the building. Is that correct?
You really can't, as big as this is, you really can't see it in any sort of detail from any surrounding street. You got traffic on 81, fairly wide right away there. Hopewell Road, you have a stormwater management facility, and then I think there's some sort of retaining wall, or at least there you go, a slope there.
Yes.
That's the front of the stormwater management facility there. So if you go,
That's what I was referring to.
yeah, you really can't see anything from Hopewell Road. If you went up to the top of that berm there, you're going to be looking down into their stormwater management facility, and then beyond that, a significant distance is where their trailer parking is going to be.
Exactly.
I think we need to, even though I am dreading it, but no, I think we need to do this in 3 votes.
I agree.
We needed first to vote on the forest conservation plan, the new forest conservation plan, then any landscaping waivers, and finally, the site plan.
Well, this is Colin. I'll make a motion to approve the forest conservation easement plan as proposed.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Was there any further discussion before I get in the voting? We ready to vote?
Mr. Chairman, you might want to see if the applicant wants to say anything, if Trevor has anything to add.
Good evening, gentlemen. This is Trevor Frederick, FSA engineer. I have nothing further. I think Steve did an excellent job presenting the project to you all. And I look forward to your recommendation on the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We ready to vote? Chris Davis,
Aye.
Shelley McIntyre,
Aye.
Colin P,
Aye.
Jim Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas,
Aye.
Judy Weller,
Aye.
Doug Wright, aye. That carries unanimously. The second one then is the landscaping waivers requested. We're kind of stuck with a lot of them, but we still need to record it. The lack of islands in the parking area. Did you say, Steve, that they're going to be putting some vegetation out along Hopewell Road?
Yes, they're going to infill street trees to current city standards. There's several street trees, and then there's also going to be some additional landscaping plantings around their Tractor Supply sign that's by the driveway entrance.
And that's shown on the site plan.
That is.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
I move to approve landscaping waivers.
Thank you.
Second.
That
Ron.
was Ron. That was Ron. Yeah. I recognize him. We ready to vote? Chris Davis,
Aye.
Shelley McIntyre,
Aye.
Colin P,
Aye.
Jim Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas,
Aye.
Judy Weller.
Aye.
Doug Wright, yes. That carries unanimously. Now we have the last issue, that is the site plan itself. We do have one outstanding, was it two or one? We got soil conservation. We have gotten approval from county wastewater.
Just soil conservation. Everybody else chimed in since the report is being okay.
Okay. So we just have that one conditional soil conservation.
I make a motion that we approve the site plan with the condition of from soil conservation. Is it?
Second.
Yes, approval with one outstanding conditional. Thank you. Chris, you second, okay. Are we ready to vote? Chris Davis,
Aye.
Shelley McIntyre,
Aye.
Alan P.
Aye.
Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas,
Aye.
Judy Weller,
Aye.
Doug Wright, aye. It passes unanimously, and we were done with that one. Move on with Joe Maribal, 27 West Antietam Street.
Do we have Adam Hager on the line?
I'm sorry?
I'm trying to see if the project engineer is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Trevor, are you handling this for Adam?
I am not. Is Adam on the call?
We're not seeing him.
Okay. I'm here if you need me then.
Okay. And Doug, this is pretty simple, so
Yes.
there shouldn't be I don't think Adam's absence is that critical here. Okay, this is a site plan, staff approved site plan 2020-01. This is a parking lot site plan for the Merbal property on 27 West Antietam Street. This site plan is for the construction of an 11-space parking lot on a narrow lot on West Antietam Street across from the District Court of Maryland. Landscape islands are proposed for the front and rear with a 4-foot landscaped edge along the east side property line. Traffic would be one way in from Antietam Street and would exit to the rear via an access easement on the adjacent property to Rochester Alley. The plan is scheduled for review for the Historic District Commission later today when I wrote that, and we don't anticipate any issues, and the HDC has approved this plan. The applicant seeks approval of an alternate landscaping plan as shown, as the narrow urban nature of the site is such that it renders compliance with most provisions of the landscaping section of Article 5 impossible. Essentially, by the time you put in two 10-foot landscape buffers along each side property line, you have no property left. The following agencies have provided approvals: water, wastewater, fire marshal, engineering, planning, and also the electric division has also weighed in with an approval since your report was prepared. So staff recommends approval. And that's what I got. And your staff report basically is just a single bay of, a single drive aisle with one bay of angled parking facing to the south, one-way traffic off of Antietam. The HDC has a concern in general with the maintenance of street walls and defining things along the property line. So the HDC did require something along Antietam, and they're putting in an ornamental wrought iron metal fence along the front of the parking, the landscape island toward the front of the site. That the sample of that material is shown in a photograph in the bottom left-hand corner of the staff report. So it kind of creates some definition of the street front of the property in the historic district.
Steve, this is Jim. I have a question.
Yep.
Who is going to, or what is this parking lot going to serve?
As I understand it, Mr. Murbaugh basically wants to make parking spaces available for rent to surrounding employees and residents of the area.
So it's going to be rent. I mean, it's not going to be an open free parking lot.
No.
Okay.
It'll be a rent space from Mr. Murbaugh, and you get the right to park there.
Okay.
And the area is where that for sale sign by owner is. And so it's up against the Owls Club. You're gonna have a landscape bed along the base of the wall there by the Owls Club.
Right.
Drive aisle will be kind of off center to the left, going through the property, parking spaces angled off to the right.
Gotcha.
So those concrete blocks define the property line now.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a whole lot of space.
Well, it's a narrow parking lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions? We've seen this before.
Just one question. The owner had planned to put a street light on a city pole at the rear of the property. Is that required, or was that just something for security on his part?
The ordinance requires that if the parking lot receives use at nighttime, it has to be lit.
What is the disposition of that light now?
I believe it's still shown on the plan. Proposed light, yeah. The light.
That's what I'm saying, but on the, where did I read it?
On the Hagerstown Light
Yeah,
Park.
it said the Hagerstown Light Plant letter said that the proposed light shown on pole 4513 cannot be installed. Any site lighting to be installed, maintained by others on their poles or structures. That's a private light on a city property, and they don't allow it. Now he can lease a light from the city that'll be maintained by the city, but he can't hang a private light on their pole.
And you're right, I missed that. What I can do is work with Adam on that to figure out an alternative. Maybe it's possible that if the parking lot's not going to be used at night, there's no requirement for it. But I'll need to work with them on that. And if for some reason it creates some sort of major adjustment to this plan, we'll have to bring it back to you.
Okay, then in that case, I'll make a motion that we accept the site plan with the condition that the disposition of the lighting be taken care of before the becomes final.
Second.
Any further discussion? Are we ready to vote? Another roll call, please. Chris Davis,
Aye.
Shelley McIntyre,
Aye.
Alan P.
Aye.
Jim Stone,
Aye.
Ron Thomas,
Aye.
Judy Weller, and Doug Wright. Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. All righty. Now we move on to Planning Commission business, and that is the 2021 Capital Improvement Program. Basically, it's just here for us. I mean, it is a requirement to review it, provide any input, and make a recommendation onto the mayor and council that it does conform with the comprehensive plan. And it meets the objectives of the comprehensive plan.
We're requesting that you do that review, even though we know full well this plan is going to change dramatically. It was prepared before the state of emergency, and revenue sources have been impacted by that as well as expenses. So we know that whatever does finally get approved by the mayor and council is going to be re-reviewed again in the summer and coming months. But since this is in the proposed plan, we still wanted to get your input on what's in there in terms of consistency with the comprehensive plan. And I've added in some highlights from various funds in the plan that are planning kind of related items. I didn't put in all the, vehicles and, this little widget and that. It's more things that would be, from a planning perspective, be of interest to the planning commission. So under in the general fund, we have a number of parks kind of things like the extending the Hagerstown Cultural Trail down on Summit Avenue, doing the plaza behind the Urban Improvement Project in West Washington Street, continuing the work on the Pangbourne Park Lake reconstruction of the walls, dredging, and working on the fishing pier and the Hamilton Run improvements. The city park improvements include installing a fence along Virginia Avenue to replace the hedge that's up by the road, lighting improvements, landscaping and drainage. At the Fairgrounds Park, the entrance building stabilization, a BMX track upgrade, and improvements to the stable roof, phase 1. Basil Boulevard, this is something that's been in the plan for a while in terms of a widening, but what's actually in the plan now is to reconstruct the road that's there so it can take the additional truck traffic that'll be generated by the North Point development. And so, because when we built that road, we didn't design it in mind for this kind of weight. And so it's going to be a partnership between the developer, the city, the county, and the state to make this happen so that we get this economic development project. Professional court extension would be completing the design work for widening and reconstruction of the professional court so that you could accommodate the traffic from the bridge. Road resurfacing, portions of East Urban Avenue, Nottingham Road, and others. Sidewalk replacement is in here for the first time because with the adoption of the stormwater management program as a trade-off that people are going to be now paying, well, not now, but when that part goes into effect, paying into the stormwater management fund for stormwater management improvements, the city has taken on now. From now on, we will be doing the sidewalk replacements when it's time to do, road resurfacing. We send the letters out to adjacent property owners that they need to redo the sidewalk or the curb if necessary. The city's going to be doing that now, so that will be coming off the responsibility of the property owners.
Wait, excuse me, Kathy. Is that going to be for everywhere in the city?
Yes.
Why would the city at a time like this want to make that kind of an undertaking?
It was sort of a trade-off because now all the property owners are going to be incurring the cost annually to pay into the stormwater management fee fund based on the amount of impervious area that they have. And so this was a nice trade-off. So the city would take away the responsibility for now of having to maintain the public sidewalk in front of your property.
Wow.
The snow, however.
I think it's been reported in the paper also that there's talk about postponing the enacting of the stormwater management project. And that might postpone a little bit of this. But of course, this plan was made again before March 15th. And as Kathy said, there could well be significant changes.
Last night, the mayor and council approved the stormwater management ordinances, but what we don't know is at what point they will actually start the fee system. And then the next two items, it's an either or. I clarified this with the fire chief. The first one is consolidation of public safety assets. That would be funds to acquire a piece of ground, to be able to put together the fire department, the shift commander's, fire marshal's office, and one or more volunteer companies. If that doesn't pan out, also in the budget would be funds to upgrade the existing fire department facilities that are next to the market house, because their facilities are pretty dated. And then also funds in the budget for the fire department training center. Even though the county is constructing that public safety center down on the Sheriffsburg Pike, it does not actually include anything but classrooms. So the people are still going to need to use our facility in the industrial park. And so this is money for the new burn building, new pole building with maze, second hydrant, and showers and restrooms. From the water and wastewater, funds in the budget for the East End pump station. The pump station down on Heb needs to be enlarged or replaced to be able to accommodate all that raw land down there.
Pumping-
I'm sorry?
Also, a pressure tank should be included in that for the East End, along with the pumping station, wastewater.
You can make that comment. This is actually a wastewater line item.
Yes, but it's also, they need a pressure tank in order to get the water down there to pump out. To build up the pressure in that in the town.
Okay,
It's my annual request.
yes.
And I think it's a good one, by the way. I agree with that.
We had a fire.
Absolutely. 2 of them, as a matter of fact.
Making that note. And then, as usual, there's funds in the budget for the citywide collection system rehabilitation. That's the correct I&I that gets into the system, infiltration, inflow. So that helps to increase capacity at the plant. Continuing efforts to work with the Edgemont Reservoir. So there's funds in the budget to comply with MDE's dam safety and reservoir requirements. Under the stormwater management budget, there's funds in the budget for the stormwater management implementation. That would be constructing stormwater management retrofit facilities at various locations using the new and bond funds. Storm drain system upgrade, storm drain replacement at Park Circle at the railroad crossing, and plus other utilizing the new fee. Street trees and reforestation, that would be using the new fee because this helps us with the 20% reforestation requirement of the NPDES permit. Green streets, reconstruct existing streets to improve pedestrian access, decrease impervious surfaces, and construction of new planting beds and tree pits for stormwater management. And curb replacement program, replace deteriorating curbs on planned street overlay projects using the fee. Let's see. And then on the parking budget, the third parking deck downtown, there's funds in the budget for land acquisition for a third parking deck. But again, this was prepared before the state of emergency. We know it's going to change, but just wanted to get the planning commission's reaction to what has been proposed.
Kathy, I have a question. This may or may not be relevant to your earlier comments about fire facilities, but is the city going to keep the First Hose Fire Department downtown?
First Hose is not owned by the city.
No, but I mean, what I'm getting at is virtually all the fire departments that once were located in the downtown area have now been moved out. And I think First Hose is the only one that's located there.
That's correct.
So I mean, I'm gathering that the fire department management doesn't want to have fire stations downtown. So this is more the nature of a question.
Yeah, I don't know for sure what the plan would be for First Hose, but I know that the desire is to have facilities that meet modern requirements for fire stations, as well as be able to consolidate all the facilities together and to have them on a street network that allows them to get going in different directions quickly. So you don't not constrained by the one-way street system.
Well, again, I mean, that's a fine idea, except that if the result is we don't have any downtown fire stations, then it seems to me that's a step backwards.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that not having a fire station downtown is a good idea.
you've got to find the space to accommodate the increase of the new sizes of the firefighting equipment also.
I'm sure our chief has done studies that he'll be glad to come and talk to us about traffic and how it is faster to get from out of town in town than to get out of those stations to get down. Particularly if we can get out of the stations to get out. I think, and it's referred to in previous conversations tonight, that, no, it wasn't, it was previous meeting, that they're looking at acquiring a piece of land from Columbia Gas on South Potomac Street, basically right across from Bester Elementary. So I think I understand Jim's concern, but I believe some professionals feel that it should be spread out further out on an outer ring instead of the town that once was in the 30s and the 20s.
Well,
I believe they feel that they can get around quicker on the edge of downtown coming in than trying to maneuver around the downtown. Like-
That's what I've heard the chief say.
Yes. Yes, the size of the trucks is just prohibitive during traffic.
well, I just wanted to make that observation. It's not a big thing. I'm not suggesting that there be a comment added to this to reflect that. That may just be my own view.
Okay.
I think if you look at what you have now, there is a station there just across the railroad tracks that used to be a car dealership.
Oh, yeah,
Then you
but
have
that's
the-
not, I wouldn't call that downtown.
Well, it's close enough to downtown where you have a straight shot. Then you have there also the station that lost my train of thought. Where
You
is
get
it?
the West End,
West End, yes.
South End, and then you have Eastern. They're the ones I can come up with in my
Yeah,
mind.
the one there on there where the grain plant is, it's further out. That's a little further out. But yeah, you've got rings around where you can get them in. It's that I think the problem is having a building that can house the size of the equipment that you need that can maneuver on the narrow streets trying to get in and out of the station.
Well, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm pretty sure they make trucks that are small enough to fit in some of these existing bays, because there are so many cities that just don't have the luxury of, tearing down massive amounts of buildings in order to accommodate larger trucks. So I don't think it's completely an either or situation. But that said, I mean, I'm willing to move on. I mean, I understand.
Okay.
the
I
reality.
agree. You need to have something close enough to get to the buildings and the facilities inside the city without, waiting a half hour for them to maneuver around.
Right.
Well,
So we-
let's move on. And if you all want to, we can ask the chief to come talk to us. If you want to do it, he would be happy, I know, to do it.
Please, I think that would be an interesting conversation.
I agree.
I think it would be very informative.
Kathy, can I ask you to arrange for that?
Absolutely. And I'm sure he would be delighted to talk to you about it.
He loves to talk. In a good way, Hagerstown kid. Okay, anything else about this package?
Just whether you are ready to forward a recommendation to the mayor and council.
As corrected.
Or as modified by
Modified, yes, modified.
the looking into a pressure tank in the East End? Is that correct, Ron?
That is correct.
All right. We do need a motion to make this recommendation on the mayor and council.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. This is not necessary for a roll call. So I'm going to rule that way. Because it's the recommendation of the mayor and council. So I'll ask all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Abstain. This is Shelley.
Shelley abstains. It passes unanimously. That's it, folks.
I did just want to mention one thing really quickly, just if anyone is watching at home, you can go to our webpage of Planning Commission, and if you wish to speak at a public hearing, you can click this form and fill this out. And then we also post all our materials for the most recent meeting on this webpage as well. Just an FYI for anyone watching.
And we encourage you to do so. We're only citizens working for you, so we need your input.
Doug, I have a question.
Yes?
Do you know what other planning commissions, what other cities are doing in terms of meeting during the emergency?
Kathy, you want to answer that?
They're kind of all over the place. Some people delayed for quite a while as they tried to figure out what they wanted to do. That Washington County is going to start having meetings in May. Their planning commission is going to meet early next week, and the Board of Zoning Appeals is going to meet later in the month.
So I'm wondering if we shouldn't, we seem to be out in front on this, if we shouldn't present on this at the state meeting? About how the staff pulled together and made this happen?
I think Kathy's already been, her arms being twisted.
We did present what we're doing on the Maryland Department of Planning's Planning Director's webinar that they held a week and a half ago. And because they, I don't know how they got wind of what we were doing, but they asked us, since you explain what you've done and what you've learned. And Megan and Paul and Donnie in our office did a lot of research to figure out what would be an appropriate thing for us to use, and then how to make it secure so we didn't get Zoom bombed, as you read about in the media.
Except for my dog.
I've been touting the staff's accomplishments to Maryland Department of Planning. And I think some of our board members have watched previous meetings. I know Kathy's had other conversations with, and interesting enough, the Maryland Planning Commissioners meeting in October this will be the topic of being resilient, being adaptive, and planning for the future. So it's along this lines of how to cope with things like this.
When Mr. Rohrbaugh says, we're doing the same thing as you guys at Lancaster County Planning, but they're using Life Size instead of Zoom. Apparently Life Size is another platform.
Well, I think staff has done very nicely putting this together.
Sure.
And we probably are out in front of a lot of other groups on this, and that's a good thing.
I think we've done a fantastic job putting this together in the length of time that we had to do it, and having the success with what we've done. It's just, the only difference is, instead of being there looking each other in the eye, you've got to look at our silly mugs over a screen.
But we're not infecting each other, so that's the important part.
Today, the planners were participating in the American Planning Association's national conference, which became digital this year. And the law session today was just about this, virtual meetings for board meetings. And for the most part, we felt pretty good about what those lawyers were recommending.
Well, I think we're looking at the new normal going forward. A lot is going to change because of this. I've been doing this for 10 years, so it really is not that different for me. I've been working harder now that I haven't been traveling.
They raised good questions in the law session, like what do you do for people who don't have internet access?
Who doesn't have internet access anymore?
No.
Well, rural
There are
counties
people.
and places for sure, yeah.
People of very low income.
Right.
Well, there are a lot of programs to help those people actually have, so there is available services for them. A lot of places, unless you're in a very rural area.
But Colin brings up a good point that perhaps that's something the city should be looking into, given what's happening now, are there some programs we can do to get internet for people?
I think one of the biggest problems is, and my wife brings it up all the time, folks who came up not technology literate. I mean, you have some folks around here who participate in voluntary work all over the city that are in their 75, 80, and 85, who their grandkids and great grandkids teach them how to use a cell phone.
You shouldn't talk about my mother, Ron.
My mother.
You might have been talking.
My mother refused to use a wireless phone because she said it would cause her to get cancer in her hip if she put it in her pocket.
Well, if she gets 5G, she'll get COVID. So,
Unfortunately, Mom's not with us any longer, but it took us a long time to get her to carry that around with her when she was living by herself.
Mr. Rohrbaugh points out there's also another demographic that doesn't have internet access, at least in his geographic area, the Amish. He said except
Yes.
they also don't have electricity, so.
I was going to say they don't have electricity or phones.
Or motor vehicles or.
Yep.
But they are citizens.
They seem to get along quite well.
Well, folks, we are still being recorded. And so I think we need to adjourn this meeting. I again appreciate your all's involvement, 100% participation tonight. And I apologize for butchering people's names.
I'm used to it.
Yeah.
That was a highlight. That was fun.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. We are.
So moved. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.